Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I remember specifically, we had to buy these little cards from a company called Orbitel, and we had to actually use the amount of money that was on there to actually make a call. And sometimes we just run out of money and all that kind of stuff. So it was obviously very difficult, but I would ask my mom to buy me a card, and she would usually buy me a card roughly once a week. Um, but believe it or not, that was kind of the 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 first way that I ever understood the fact that we were in a precarious position um,
Mm.
economically. I never understood that. Um, but it wasn't until one day I asked my mom to buy me a car because I wanted to talk to my dad. And she looked at me just like completely dejected one day. Um, and she said, I can't, I can't, I don't have the money. Um, and my response was, oh, well, let's go to the Blue Store. And the Blue Store was Amscot. I didn't understand that every time that we went to Amscot every other Friday, it was because we needed a cash advance because we couldn't afford it. I just love the Tootsie Rolls. And so I would go in there and I'd just sit while they were chatting in the window. I would just grab a bunch of Tootsie Rolls, I'd sit down and I'd just start unwrapping them and eating them all. Um, my little childhood brain didn't understand that, and it wasn't until I realized that something as fundamental as just simply talking to my dad was costing my mom so much. Not just like the money is the least of the issues. It's the mental um sort of, or well, the heartache really of not being able to allow her son to speak to his dad like that. That must have been horrific. So yeah, of course we kept in touch. We never really wrote to each other, very rarely. I think I remember receiving maybe one one email from my dad. And
Mm.
it was when my little brother was born. And it's just because he wanted to send me some pictures. But very rarely, like I think I went probably those 3 years, those first 3 years without seeing what my dad looked like at all. And that was kind of weird to come back to because I clung on to this picture, held on to this picture. Um, and he changed. He like physically, like we all physically changed. It's years, right? But I remember coming back and going like, oh wow, yeah, I guess time has passed, right?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it was kind of difficult, and then it just became a lot easier once we got FaceTime and WhatsApp and that kind of stuff.
Mhm. I remember those cards. I used to buy
Yeah,
them
yeah,
to call Latin America. Yeah, that was the way
yeah.
to call. So, um, how did your mom make it? Did she have more English than you did, or?
No, I learned English before she did. So my stepdad knew English. He'd gone to high school here. He moved here when he was about 15. So he knew how to speak English, sort of conversationally. He didn't really know how to spell a lot of things. He didn't know how to, um, write a form in a document or anything like that. And so I sort of became my parents' like, uh, I don't know, lawyer, notary, you know what I mean? Like any sort of legal document, it was like everything sort of went through me, and it was very interesting because I just sort of learned all this crazy terminology and trying to understand. Like I just remember like trying to figure out the rent contract, whether it was fine, trying to read all this stuff, um, and that was a little scary. Like all of my like school applications or paperwork to go on a field trip or anything like that, I had to translate. Um, and that was an interesting experience, and it taught me a lot. Um, but it definitely had to sort of serve as their translator in a lot of things.